still one of the few things that just still gives me that like little kid feeling when I get on stage. It's my happy place. It's my safe comfort zone. And
welcome back to Under Oath. Today we're going to be interviewing singer, songwriter, and actor Jesse McCartney. Jesse, can you hear me?
Yeah, Jeff, how you doing?
I'm doing great, man. I know you got a new album out. Why don't you tell me about it?
Yeah, so my new EP is called All's Well, sort of my latest journey in music, and I'm very excited about it. It's a song that sort of or a record that was inspired by, listening to some old Hall & Oates music on vinyl, and I wanted to do something that was sort of a tip of the cap to pop music in the 70s. And I got in the studio with some super talented songwriters and producers in Los Angeles, and we recorded at the Village Recording Studio, legendary place. And we tracked everything live rhythm section, live horns, live strings, very old school way of doing things, very analog. And it just sounds so rich to me, and I feel like it's something a lot of people don't do anymore in pop music. And I'm just super happy with how it turned out. And we're about to head out on the road for about 5 weeks. And I'm hoping everybody comes out to see these new songs up on their feet.
It's a 24-city tour, so where are you going through, like some of the big hits?
Oh, everywhere. The tour starts April 12th in Austin, and we'll, Austin, Dallas, Houston, New Orleans, Orlando, Tampa, New York, Chicago, LA, San Fran, all the big markets. So we'll be in a city near you for sure. There's, like you said, there's 24 shows, so you'll find me.
Now you've done big tours, you've traveled the world. I mean, how does it feel now? I mean, is it something you still get up for, or is it something you're going, sleeping in hotels for 6 months?
Well, actually, I'm on a bus, which is, a tour bus, but it is absolutely still what I get up for. I think performing live is my favorite part of this whole industry. It's, still one of the few things that just still gives me that like little kid feeling when I get on stage. It's my happy place. It's my safe comfort zone. And, I think after doing it for now almost, over 2 decades, I just find myself getting into more and more of a rhythm. And, I just enjoy performing live. I love the spontaneity of a live show night in and night out, and what that brings and what that means, and doing crowd work and working with the audience. And, it's still one of my favorite things. I just got to take care of myself because, it gets harder as you get older.
Yeah, you get sick out on the road. That's hard. It's hard to stay healthy. I do a lot of stand-up, so I meet a lot of people and staying healthy and everything else. But I guess one of the questions I want to ask is, I get to play small places and I get to play big places. Do you like a more intimate setting, or do you like looking out at a sea of people?
I like both. I mean, there are, great things to both. Obviously, in a, arena setting where you're playing in front of thousands of people, the energy is just insane. And, but what you do miss is the intimacy of a smaller venue, like a House of Blues or something, where you can really connect one-on-one with people, and you can literally call somebody out and have a conversation with them mid-set or mid-show. There's something very charming to that, and I think leaves people with a better sense of who you are, and makes them feel like they're getting a very tailored and specific performance each night, rather than playing a big show where, it feels a little bit more formulaic.
A lot of concerts are different now because there's add-ons and everything else. There's meet and greets, there's photos. I don't know if you do that in your concerts. What's it like for you when you do actually go out there and you're taking pictures, you're signing autographs, you're having people lose their mind when they actually get to be next to you?
It's amazing. And we do all of that, actually. We do VIPs, we have, meet and greets, and it's nice. I think the fans enjoy getting to have a moment and take a photo and have a little one-on-one time. And, I want to give them just like a great experience and give them a little break from whatever they're going through in life and from all the anxieties around us in the world. When you come to my show, you get a break, and I just try to touch people and bring them some joy, and, let them have fun for a few hours. And, so meet and greets are a part of that for sure. There's VIPs, all of that stuff is available. And, I just try to give them the best show possible.
Now, every time I get to talk to a singer, an actor, everything else, they talk about they have a certain memory of meeting a fan who, has lived their whole life or has just died to see him. What is one of your best fan experiences?
Oh, man, there's so many. But, one of my earliest is a group of girls followed the tour bus to every city on the Beautiful Soul tour in their car. And they had so many crazy stories of breaking down or running out of gas or running out of money. But somehow still made it to the next show. And by the end, by the end of the tour, I knew them all by name, like 4 girls traveling in a Honda Civic behind our tour bus. And it was just such a cool moment, something out of a movie or something, like an almost famous moment. But, recently I had a girl come up to me and ask to have me handwrite all of the tracks from the Beautiful Soul album, my debut album, so that she could have them tattooed on her leg. And I was like, I don't have the best handwriting. So, but it's crazy what fans will do to show their love and their support. But it means so much to me. And, it's the best. It's amazing that after 20 plus years, these people still show up to see me play. And, what more can you ask for as a performer?
It's interesting when you talk about performing live because I know you started your career on stage, and I like to ask actors and people like that these specific questions. But I think I'm going to tailor this one. You have a choice between a Tony or a Grammy. What do you choose?
A Tony or a Grammy? Ooh, man, I feel like I don't just. I feel like the Grammy, and here's why. Tony is great, and I started in theater. I love theater, but I feel like I don't know that I've put enough time and effort into Broadway or the theater to really have that moment. But in music, I feel like I've been working at it a long time, and it would be a nice recognition. It's not why I do this, but of course, that's every kid's dream, right? Is to win a Grammy Award for their music. So I think I'd probably lean on the Grammys a little bit for this one.
Yeah, it's always interesting when you hear because I know you started your career on the stage and everything else, and I've asked people singers and everything else who have an opportunity to work on Broadway, and they always say it's just such an amazing thing being able to do 10, 20 shows a week and just performing to different audiences. You've actually in the recent years have done some other different things. For example, a good friend of mine who out of Orlando, Joey Fatone, he's a fellow mass singer like you. And how tough was that? Because I know there's a lot of security and everything's under wrap. What was it like going through that?
Oh, the Masked Singer was actually, as fun as it seems, was one of the most difficult things for me to do because of just the operational part of it. First of all, you're performing in this super heavy costume. I was the turtle, and the shell is behind that I was wearing was 25 pounds. So imagine just running around stage and performing with holding a 25-pound dumbbell on your back. It's incredibly difficult. The ventilation is not the best. So getting a deep breath and trying to sing that big note is even harder. Don't eat a salad with onions in it that day because you'll regret it. Let me tell you. But overall, it was such a cool experience, and I got to play every night in front of Robin Thicke, who's one of my vocal heroes. So that was really fun. It was one of the reasons why I did it, to be honest with you. But it was such a great time and something I'll, look back on and maybe one day if I have kids, be able to show them, So it was a cool chapter for sure.
Now, there's a lot of secretive issues on that. How long were you actually taping? Some people don't think it's because it lasts for weeks. They think you're taping for weeks, but sometimes it's only a couple days. How long were you taping that show?
Well, I suppose it's different for everybody. Certainly depends on how far you make it, right? If you get eliminated, you could be done in a week. I made it, thankfully, I made it to the last episode. I finished in second, and it was, I would say, start to finish, about 3 months of filming between rehearsals and everything. I think we started at the end of December, and we ended in maybe beginning of March. So about 2.5, 3 months. And, the music director would come over each week. You'd pick your song. You'd rehearse. I have a piano at the house, so I'd sit down. We'd arrange the song, work on, the 90 seconds or 2 minutes of the song that you're going to perform. And, you tailor the song to what's good for your vocals. You try to do things that are different each week to show people your range. It's just a fun experience, and getting to sing other people's songs too was new for me because usually I'm up there singing my own stuff. So getting to sing other people's music was definitely very refreshing.
Now, there's a lot of secretiveness about this, NDAs and stuff like that. How hard is it to keep that secret when everyone's asking you what you're doing for 3 months?
Oh yeah, it's like a CIA operation. You have to, I think I told my wife, obviously, because I was leaving the house at 6 a.m. in a mask and in full, they cover your hands and feet with mittens and socks so no one can see your skin color. So they, because they don't want people to guess who you are. I told my mom, I told my manager, I told my publicist and my wife, and that's it. I didn't tell my mom. I didn't tell my family. And they were all like, how come you didn't tell us? And it's because you have to sign these NDAs, 100 of them, saying that you're not going to tell anybody because it'll ruin the surprise. But yeah, it was like an undercover operation every morning. I'd leave my house with a mask on. My neighbors thought I was nuts. I'd show up to the set and they'd get you out of the car with an umbrella to sort of as an extra layer of secrecy. None of the camera guys, none of the production team knew who I was. It was really just the line producer who had to talk to me about, the logistics of filming, and that's it. But yeah, super intense operation.
When you brought up, I used to do character work at Disney, and I know how hard it is. We did parades, and you'd have to dance down the street and everything. And people don't realize how tough it is to do choreography and things like that, and move around, and how hot it gets. And you need to get out of that costume probably every 30 minutes, or you're going to die. I mean, was there any where people are always asking you how you're doing? Were there times where you're going, "I'm not doing so great"?
Oh, absolutely. I mean, you have to stay super hydrated every day. Because you sweat profusely in that outfit. And you do have a wrangler that sort of helps you in and out of your helmet and your gear when you're really dying. I was also wearing like everything leather from the waist down. So it was even, nothing breathes. You're just constantly swimming in your own sweat. So it's a real challenge. And, you have to be fit, man. Like, honestly, it's an endurance test.
When your agent brings that to you and he goes, "Hey, listen, we got a shot for The Masked Singer," and you're going, "Well, I'm excited," but at the same time, after you got it, were you going, "I didn't know how hard this was going to be"?
Yeah, totally. I did not. I underestimated the level of concentration and endurance that it would take. I'm still so happy that I did it, but I think if they asked me back, I'd have to consider all of that before doing it again because it was intense, But I thoroughly enjoyed it, and like I said, I got to play for one of my vocal heroes every night who came up to me after the show and said some really nice, kind things about my singing, which to me made it all worthwhile.
You've been in the industry a while. When I say a while, most people, the longevity of a singer could be a couple years. Your first album comes out in 2004. You have a new song coming out 20 years later. I mean, how is the feeling different when you release a new album or a new song now in comparison to back then where it just seemed like everything was new?
Yeah, I mean, I definitely have, my reps in at this point. I know sort of every step of the process at this point and how it goes and what it takes to put out a new project and the amount of focus and energy that you need to bring to the table. And, and it doesn't get any easier as you get older. You're more tired most of the time. I value sleep now more than anything. But yeah, I mean, certainly from a marketing standpoint and from selling your music, social media is probably the latest game changer, right? Where now you're as much of a content creator and someone sharing your personal life as you are a singer or a songwriter. And, it's super important. People want to know more than just the latest single. And that was an adjustment period for me. Certainly something that I didn't have to deal with when I was a young person starting out, putting out my first album. But, I think the biggest changes also are just my songwriting. I think I've evolved as a songwriter. I'm really happy with where I'm at. And I feel like I'm writing some of my best stuff now than ever before. So really excited about this new EP.
You brought that's pretty interesting. You brought up how the writing changes. For example, my stand-up 20 years, 30 years ago was different than it is today. How tough is it now when you go, "I want this song to mean something to me at this age"? How difficult is that to try to connect with an audience and still try to be true to how you feel now?
Well, the good news is the audience grows with you, So some of the concepts that you're talking about now that you weren't necessarily talking about when you were younger, are still are accessible, and they understand because, like you've now experienced the world a little bit more. You have a better understanding of relationships and dynamic of relationships. I'm certainly more traveled than I've ever been, and I've seen the world, and I know how people operate, and it just makes for more informed songwriting. And I think finding new ways to say the same thing can sometimes be a challenge, but that's what I love about it. And I'm sure with you, with comedy, it's the same. But as your audience grows, they want to hear the evolution, and they want to see how you've grown. So, I just try to be my authentic self and write about things that I really love and care about and know about. And then I'm confident that my audience is smart enough that it'll connect and that it'll be accessible for them.
Now, you've traveled the world. You've seen a lot of different places as a singer, as an actor. Now, if you had to, with everything you've seen, the most beautiful locations, if you had to live somewhere for the rest of your life, what would you choose?
Ooh, that's really tough. But, I love this country. I love the United States. It's my home. It's my favorite place. And, I love where I live with my wife. We have a beautiful home and family, and I love LA. But if I had to choose somewhere outside of the U.S., like some exotic, sexy place, I'd probably go with somewhere in Italy, maybe Rome, or even Milan. I really love Italy. But I also love the people in Australia. They're just my kind of people, salt of the earth people. They're really witty, really good with a joke and a punchline, and I really admire that. They don't take things too seriously, and they love pop music. So maybe somewhere in like Melbourne. I love Melbourne. Those are some of my faves.
Well, we just have a couple minutes left, and I guess one of the questions I'm wondering is, you had the benefit of you grew up in front of the cameras, but the internet was not exactly what it is today. Could you imagine how difficult it is for somebody in their their teens and 20s trying to survive when everything you do goes online in seconds?
Yeah, I don't know how they do it, frankly. I mean, I'm in many ways, I'm so happy that social media did not exist when I was a kid, because it's brutal out there. And I think, there's definitely a responsibility from these programmers and these people who have such an impact on young minds to be responsible, because, I went through normal things like going through puberty and having terrible acne sometimes at the height of my career. And, it would have been brutal. The comment section would have been brutal. And I don't know how I would have done with that. So I have a lot of admiration and respect for the young generation who has to deal with that. It's like a new anxiety that didn't necessarily exist when I was young. I try my best to encourage people to not pay attention to the haters online. I got them, you got them, we all got them. Everyone's got a hater. And, but it's easier said than done. And when you're a young, impressionable mind, it's hard not to take things super personally. So.
Yeah, I can see that. We got about a minute left. Why don't you tell people how they can get concert tickets, how they can get access to the new song, and your other social media pages?
Yeah, so I'm going on tour April 12th through May 16th around the United States. I think there's 24 shows, all the big cities and some. So I'm definitely in a city near you. If you go to jessymccartney.com or you just punch it into Google, you'll find a show. And we're doing VIPs and meet and greets. So there's all sorts of fun things you can do at the show. And then, of course, the EP, All's Well, drops April 5th. I'm super excited about this project. I think people are really going to love it. And they can stream it everywhere they find their music, April 5th.
Well, I really appreciate it. And your Florida gigs, do you know those?
Yeah, I'll be in Orlando and Tampa. I'm not certain on the dates, but like I said, if you go to jessymccartney.com, you'll see all of the tour dates that are available.
All right, perfect. It was great talking to you, Jesse. I hope to talk to you again.
Awesome. Thanks so much, Jeff. You take care.